Hello and welcome to the Community Difference. We are headed out to Rowlett, Texas this afternoon. We're going to visit with Blake, the youngest councilman in the state of Texas. Just happens to be from my hometown, Rowlett, Texas. A lot to learn, a lot going on in Rowlett, Texas. Also, want to ask the question: what you're putting on your steak? How could that change your community? What a crazy question. Stick around. We're going to answer that next on the Community Difference.
Tune in to watch our communities grow. See how our citizens, local governments, small businesses, schools, and our local sports teams are coming together and partnering to make the difference. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Community Difference, a show where the small business owners, community leaders, first responders, veterans, teachers, and all of the outstanding people in our communities can share their stories, experiences, current events, and leadership examples that are having a positive impact in our communities in ways that can make the difference for us all.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Community Difference. We are all over the Metroplex on our off, I don't want to say off week, but as we grow this show, we've already got a Plano specific show on the second Tuesday of every month, and the other Tuesdays as we build connections and relationships throughout the rest of the Metroplex. We're just all over the place, so we're getting the opportunity to meet with some great folks today, as I mentioned at the beginning. But we're very excited to be here. A couple of things before we jump in. One of the things that I am passionate about, I think Lyndon, our producer, and really the creator of the difference, we love seeing people come together. We love seeing communities being highlighted on what's happening from a good standpoint, right? We probably heard me talk about this before. There's so much negativity, right? So much negativity in the news. Sometimes even our lives, we're overwhelmed with everything that's going wrong. But if you take a step back, and a lot of times you'll see this in your local papers or local city websites, whatnot. But we want to be a place where almost like the refrigerator, like you put your kids' artwork up on the refrigerator when they do good, even if it's not that good, we put it up there anyways. But we want to highlight all the good that's happening in your community. And we do that by bringing synergy together from the city leadership, small businesses, churches, first responders, school organizations, athletic departments, etc., and highlighting what is happening. What are some of the stories? Stories are an integral part of human existence, right? They tell what's happening and they help connect us. And so we obviously the difference started as a means of highlighting why certain businesses succeeded and why some failed, and then obviously giving them the ability to find the keys to those successes, right? Highlighting them from not only as an avenue to advertise and to sponsor and partner with us in that regard, but to come on and be around other business leaders and business owners and understand what it takes to be successful. Some of the other shows in the difference, have different themes and conversations they talk about each week. And so as those have developed, this show, The Community Difference, is set to kind of cast a wider net, if you will, not just through small businesses, but helping small businesses connect with their community, helping communities connect with small businesses, and then other aspects of the community, which we just talked about, school districts, just everything going on. Churches obviously are a very important part. And so if you are in a city that is not Plano, because we have a specific Plano show now, and you want us to do a show in your area, if you're part of the Chambers of Commerce or you're part of a school board or some sort of very important kind of linchpin piece of the community, right? That you have a beat on what's going on. You have some connections here. We'd love to talk with you. We'd love to say, hey, who can we partner with in the community that can help provide us these stories that are making the difference, that are making an impact? And so that's, as we continue to grow the show, we want to find, I think off air, by the end of the year, we'd like to have 20 shows. Not by all me, because nobody wants to see me for 20 times. That'd be crazy, right? But for any host that feels capable of doing that for their city, representing why they live there, what's so great about that city, why are people coming to North Texas in mass? It seems like, well, there's a lot of good stuff going on here, and so we want to highlight those things. And we're just really excited to be on the precipice of what we believe to be something very special here in 2022. So as we move into the show today, I mentioned earlier the youngest councilman, it could be that too, in the state of Texas, Blake Margolis. We're going to have him pop on in just a second here. And quite an interesting story. He's going to share kind of how that came about. But he is from my hometown of Rowlett. My wife and I live in Plano now. And so I'm excited. I haven't been back to Rowlett. Well, I've been back to Rowlett periodically to visit my family, but haven't really done a lot in Rowlett since I graduated from high school, Rowlett High School. So it's exciting that when I do go back to see the growth. Downtown looks like something totally different from when I grew up there. Obviously, the big George Bush corridor or highway that went through, I guess it was about 15 years ago now, but totally changed the landscape. All kinds of awesome stuff going on. The city's growing like crazy, just like pretty much every city around the Metroplex, which is a good thing, right? So a lot happening out there. So take a moment to introduce and bring him on now if you can, Lyndon, the city council person, place one. And I don't know what place one means, but it's always good to be number one, I guess. Mr. Blake Margolis, how are you doing, sir?
Good. Thank you for having me on here. And I've got to, I thank you a lot for doing this podcast, because it's so easy for us to focus on, the negativity in the world. And that's just kind of what gets the most attention. And so focusing on positive things is a breath of fresh air, really. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, and we can always find, I mean, you have to address things that aren't going the way you want them to, but you'll end up drowning yourself in sorrows if you don't learn to find the good, not only in people, but in just the communities around you, which are obviously made up of people. So absolutely. I want to, but before I get into your background and how you came to have the desire, first of all, to run for city council, and then of course win. Now you grew up in Rowlett. I believe you told me you were homeschooled till after the 8th grade, or till the 8th grade.
Right. So I first got my interest in local government around the age of 6. And that started,
I think that's when we all pretty much develop our interest in government, right, around age 6.
So I saw around town signs across the city that said, town hall meeting, so you could go speak to your council or mayor. And I wanted to go and ask the mayor and council why the land next to my neighborhood had a sign by the city that said, future park. And it was there for years. And so, yeah.
Where's this park at, guys? Come on.
Right. So that's kind of, that's what I did. I went up there and said, hey, where's the park? Right. Well, I didn't know. I'm too young to understand that we were in the middle of a recession. So it was after that meeting where I was like, I want to be on the other side of the table and affect some change. And so then fast forward to when I was 14, I started a Facebook page to notify residents of emergency events around the city, listening to the police and fire scanner. And that page reached over 40,000 followers. And then 15, I was asked by the Parks Board Director of Rowlett to join the Parks Advisory Board as a junior alternate member. And so I served on the Parks Board for several terms.
As a high schooler.
Years. Right. And then fast forward a few years after that, and I ran for council and was elected to council at 18 as the youngest elected official in the state.
My goodness. So it's interesting because I joked about, most people finding interest in the government at age 6, but I do remember, this may be why I have a history degree that I don't ever use, but I've always liked history. I've always admired government functioning as it should, which doesn't happen very much anymore, unfortunately. More at the city level for sure than the national level. That's a whole nother story. But I always liked the concept of how that was supposed to work. And I think, we've talked about this in other shows, that city government is the most impactful on your everyday life, aside of, how much taxes you're paying, but you're also paying taxes in your city too, or your county. So even from the national income tax standpoint, you still have state, local taxes that are very much in your immediate purview in terms of control or lobbying on if you don't like what they are. And most people don't take the time to either know who their council person is, depending on how you guys have it set up. I know Plano, there's not really everyone's council person. I don't know how Rowlett is that the same way.
That's yes, yeah,
Okay.
we're out of touch.
Okay, cool.
So
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I mean the crazy thing is that while local offices like city council have the most impact on your daily lives, you may not even realize it. They get I mean, when in a municipal election, I mean, you in Rowlett, we get like maybe on a good election day, it's 1,500 people. So it's, even though it has the most impact, it has the less voter turnout. And so that's something I hope to see change in the future. And I think what's important is it's kind of starting at this level is educating the public about why local government is so important to your daily lives. I mean, okay, you want to drink water from the sink or want to wash your hands or get in the shower. I mean, that's all that is city. I mean, city water. It's coming from the city. And, if you call 911 and the city's responding, if you want to go to the library, that's the city. I mean, there's so many things in people's daily lives that we sort of take for granted and don't realize that there's typically one entity that's providing those services to you, and that's your city.
Yeah, it touches all aspects of your life, exactly like you said. So before we dive in a little more, because I'm curious what you think might be a solution or what Rowlett, but also other city councils can do to bring about more awareness. But before we do that, I just want to ask you about Rowlett because I grew up there, so I have a lot of fond memories. And you grew up there as well. What's your favorite thing about Rowlett? What do you like about it the most?
My favorite thing about Rowlett is probably the sense of community that we've held on to. Even when we're growing as fast as we're growing, we've really held on to this sense of community. And, it was on full display after the 2015 tornado that we had.
Yes.
I mean,
I knew a lot of people that were involved. Yeah. That were affected by that.
Everybody was coming out to help, and the community stayed involved through that, for the first year, 2 years. And, it's very refreshing to see that even in a crisis, but that's one of the good things that comes from those terrible events is when the community can come together and support each other. And right, go ahead.
That was on December 26th, right? Wasn't the day after Christmas?
Yes, day after Christmas.
I remember that was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mentioned in the open, how much Rowlett has changed. You have the major highway going through there. George Bush, George Bush, that was a cow pasture in front of my high school. And I know they had to move some historical homes to get that put in there. So crazy. And if you're not from Rowlett, I'm sorry, I'm reminiscing a little bit. I apologize. But it's awesome because it's brought a whole lot to the city, which has been a good thing. And speaking of changes, Main Street, right? Downtown at Rowlett has been, it's like a whole nother street than when I grew up on, which is awesome. And so you're starting to see a lot of restaurants pop up. I know you've got the brewery that's totally escaping me. Bankhead, yes. Bankhead.
There's a story about that name.
Oh, I'd like to hear it.
So the reason why it's called Bankhead Brewery is because Main Street in Rowlett was Bankhead Highway, which was, I think, the second transcontinental highway in the United States. So it spanned from California to, I think, somewhere in the East Coast. I forget where it went to, but yeah, I mean, so Main Street in Rowlett is historical because it was the Bankhead Highway. And that bridge, that old bridge that is falling apart in the lake, it kind of comes out when there's a drought. That was part of the Bankhead Highway. So yeah, there's some rich history in this city.
I've always been fascinated by that bridge and creeped out by it at the same time.
Yeah.
So. Awesome. Well, we got about 1 minute here before we go to break. Real quickly, I know we mentioned Bankhead. With all the restaurants and different, I think there's a couple different breweries now. Where's you're going out for a date or something? I haven't after you're married. You married?
No.
Okay. Well, when you get married, where are you going on a date?
So, okay, this one could get me in trouble because I have some really good friends who are owners of different restaurants in Rowlett. But I will say that if I had to pick my absolute favorite, it would have to be Barocco's Latin Cuisine in downtown. They have the best margaritas and Mexican food in Texas. And
That's now that is a bold statement.
well, you got to go. You got to go.
Okay, you can tell me why as soon as we get back from the break. We're here with Blake Margolis. I got it right the first time. We'll be back after this commercial break from the Community Difference.
Today's show is made possible by the following small business partner: Home Title Lock. Home title protection with up to $1 million guarantee in case of fraud. Ace of Bull Online Texas, real estate school and courses, offering Trek-approved pre-licensing, CE, SAE, and broker licensing courses. Smart Credit Monitoring helps you control your credit score, money, and identity, all in one place. Phone.com. Phone.com is the modern, work from anywhere solution for today's agile, mobile, and always on entrepreneurs and growing businesses. Coronet, business asset and liability protections. Our business filing experts will help you get your business moving. Start a business, incorporate or form an LLC today with Coronet. For more info about our sponsors and their services, or if you'd like info on how you and your business can sponsor this show or others like it, just check the show description or in the comments for the relevant links. And now back to the show.
Welcome back to the Community Difference. We're here with Blake Margolis, City Councilman, Place 1, Rowlett, Texas, the great city of Rowlett, Texas. I want to make sure we stay on time and get to all the questions. So we're going to leave that best Mexican food place as a cliffhanger. You're going to have to go check it out yourself and make sure that you can just vouch for that. But I'm going to have to go because I can't let someone tell me about the best Mexican food place and not check it out because I love Mexican food. So
Who doesn't?
It's pretty much amazing. So what is it in your experience as leadership? What do you feel like sets Rowlett apart from other communities in Texas, which is tough because there's a lot of good communities in Texas. I mean, you talked to me offline about some different partnerships and connections you have in other cities around Rowlett. But what do you feel like makes Rowlett specifically unique in the panoply of other pretty awesome cities in the area?
There's several things that I think make Rowlett unique. We're a city surrounded by a lake, and how many cities can say that they're surrounded by a lake? And so one of the, capitalizing on that investment that is priceless, I think is important for us to do as a city. And the other thing is Sapphire Bay. It's $1 billion project. It will undoubtedly set Rowlett apart from other communities. And it will have a lagoon, a surf and beach club, a hotel convention center, restaurants, retail. It's really a city within a city. And so building permits have been pulled for that, and construction has resumed. There was a delay for several reasons on COVID, inflation. Whatnot.
Was that the original project that started like many years ago? Not many years ago, but
well, there's a story to that one. It was on the news for a while. It was going to be Bayside, and the city ended up filing litigation against those developers for not staying within the contract guidelines. But now we're back at it.
I'm glad, because I was really disappointed when I was like so excited to have something like that in the town I grew up in, and then to know that it just kind of went to the toilet.
Yeah, no, we have new partners now, and they're great.
Okay, that's exciting. Well, so what's the time frame on that?
So again, building permits have been pulled, and a new amended development agreement will be approved very soon, and by the council. And then once that happens, I mean, I can only imagine how quickly construction will take off. So, I mean, it could be maybe a year and a half before we start to see some things really come out of the ground.
That's outstanding. Well, that's very exciting. It's very exciting. So I want to, as we talk about the community aspect, which obviously I can just tell by your tone and the way that you talk. You love what you do. You love being. You're also in school, which people forget that he's the youngest councilman in Texas, now 22 years old. So
22.
you've been serving for 4 years.
I'm sorry.
Serving
Yes.
And
Right.
how long is the term as a city council?
I'm sorry.
The term. How long is the term?
So 3 years in
Okay.
one term, and city council in Rowlett can only have 2 terms
Okay.
unless you run for mayor. So you can have a total of 12 years. But I was the first person to vote for. Ever.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. That's awesome. So I want to, as we're going to go here to transition to Jason here in just a moment, but talk about, if you would, just some of the stories that you see. Like, it's one thing to talk about the different things that you guys vote on. You talk about the water and the library and roads and bridges and projects, but what about the actual stories that really define community life? Like, share something that has been really impactful that you've either been a part of or that you've just seen in the community that you find, man, this is inspiring, this is valuable.
So, where I find the most inspiration is during hard times. So like during the February winter storm a year ago, it was very difficult for everybody, but I went out there with another council member and the mayor, and we were going and shutting off water meters for people when their homes were flooding. And so going to knock on their doors, stomping on snow to get to their doors, and then seeing water coming down in their home, it's like, oh my, it's just devastating for them. But for them to see, somebody that cares enough to come out to their home and shut their water off for them and give them other, resources, was probably one of my most rewarding times as a council member, just to be there to help people in times of need. And ultimately, that's the job. That's the job that we're elected to do. And so we also set up a warming center, and I called on a small business owner of Bolorama, and I asked them if they would be willing to open their doors up to serve as a warming center. And they were very, very happy to help. They actually sustained power throughout the whole event, so they were on a commercial power grid. That's why we were able to use them, and they were very happy to help. And so
they're a cool place. It's a great place.
It is, yeah. Having those connections with the community and small business owners really pays dividends when you're in times of need.
Well, and I think that's so cool. And there's a lot of good stories like that, but businesses spend a lot of time on branding and image and advertising. All those things are important. Obviously, we have great sponsors here on The Difference, but
right.
If you want to make an impact, keep someone from dying, like from freezing to death,
right.
That's gonna make you remembered, right? And it's those kind of things that I love talking about and I love highlighting. And I think most of the time, especially just in the South and Texas, I mean, on a larger scale, I think we all know that Texans are generally nicer than everyone else in the country. I think we can just kind of go without saying. And then, if we expand past Texas, I'll have to change that at some point. But right now, we're sticking to Texas. But I kind of kid, but slightly seriously. So you kind of hope people will respond that way, but whether or not it actually happens is a whole nother thing. And so to see you guys, it's almost like the difference between a politician and a statesman, right? A statesman was, how politics were supposed to be. You really went up there to serve, and it wasn't your agenda. It wasn't who was paying you to do this or that, which is a lot of things we run into on a national level. But it was, I'm here to impart the will of the people that put me in office and to meet their needs, and to know that you guys were out there doing that. And I'm sure that was the case, hopefully, in some other cities around here. But that makes me proud of Rowlett. So I love, I posted this on my Facebook the other day. It's about 3 or 4 weeks ago now, but the water tower that you guys lit up with the Ukraine colors.
Yes.
That's pretty sweet. Is that okay? I've always wondered this. Does that water tower still work, or is it just a historical?
No, it does not work. We welded the doors shut. So
Okay.
Yeah, it is out of service. It's been out of service for a couple decades now.
I thought so. Yeah. but I think it worked when I was in high school still though, but it was on its last leg.
Probably. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
when we shut it off.
But it's kind of like iconic now. Like you couldn't picture downtown without seeing it.
Yeah,
So-
it's just a part of downtown, and we spent the money to refurb it and make sure that it lived a
Doesn't-
lot longer.
Didn't fall over. That's important. So, well, Blake, we're going to bring you back in at the end of the show and let you mix with our next guest. But thank you so much for being on. If you'll hang tight for just a moment, and then we'll bring you back in and let you guys kind of chat here in just a moment. But I want to turn our attention now to my good friend, my master network buddy that I met. This guy is not only a roofer, which he might not admit on this show, I don't know, but I invited him on because he loves food and I love food. And if you could see like the lower half of me, you could tell a little bit better. I know I look really fit from like right here up, but not so much down below. But I'm not kidding. It's actually sadly true. But I wanted to bring him on because, as I mentioned before, like what in the world can what you put on your steak, other than being delicious, which is very important, have to do with the community and helping minister and reach goals and impact people. And so I'm going to ask Jason Valu to come in here. And Jason is the side of being a full-time roofer, and I think you do solar too. Am I making that up? Yeah. He is a steak connoisseur and a seasoning aficionado, and he is launching a seasoning empire called Goodness Steak, which is so appropriate for Texas because goodness sake is something we say all the time here in the South. But I want him to talk about not only we'll let him hawk the seasoning here in just a moment. In fact, we're going to have a giveaway. I'll go ahead and tell you this. He's going to give away a free. Do you have one in your periphery that you can grab?
Yeah, let me grab one real quick.
Okay,
Sorry.
while you're doing that. And we're going to give away a full bottle of this. I'm telling you guys, it's a steak seasoning, but I have put it on eggs. I put it on potatoes. There it is. It's lovely. I put it on pretty much. I put it on. What did I put on the other night? Some sort of vegetables. I can't remember what it was. I put it on rice. We put it on our Cracker Barrel meal the other day when we went to Cracker Barrel. So absolutely delicious, which is awesome, right? If you're going to buy seasoning, you want it to taste good. But it's the story behind the seasoning that I'm interested in. So, Jason, if you'll just share with us, first of all, what brought you into like, I need to make a seasoning, and then how all that all came about, the name, and just tell us through that whole process.
Okay. It all started really back in like 2010, thereabouts. The story's on the website too, but I had, ultimately, wanted to season up a little roast that I had. I had some coals on my little Weber that were dying out, but they were still too hot to just let go to waste. And so I put a bunch of seasoning on this little bitty roast, wrapped it up in foil, put it on the grill for like, it was probably 3 hours or something like that. It's probably way too long for all I know, but I almost forgot about it. So about 10 o'clock at night, go back, take it off, open it up. And I was like, oh my gosh, it smelled so good. And so that was my first foray into like seasoning up something all on my own besides just good old salt and pepper. Right. And so came around about 2012. I wanted something different, steak night for the family. I thought, you know what? I did that seasoning before on that roast. Let me see if I can do something here. And so I got out some, my favorite spices. I'd actually gotten a Grilling for Dummies book. And so I looked.
Those are such good books. Those are such good books.
And so, there's all these different recipes, right? And I looked and I saw one recipe and I thought, well, it's got some good things in it. I hate that. So I started grabbing different things, put it all together, made it up. And the family was like, hey, man, that ain't bad. At that point, my youngest is 3 and he's 14 now. And so he's eating it. And it was like, oh, okay. Because it's not too spicy, everything that way. So you just loved it. So that's what I would do for the family. I did that for about 9 years, 10 years. It was just steak night for the family. Did it for some networking groups with it. Everybody brought their own steak and I'd season it up and cook it. Not that I'm a chef. Let's get that straight. It doesn't mean I know how to cook every cut of meat, but everybody was like, man, this is really good. And then December of 2020, right there, the heart of the pandemic, I gave some away to friends and they said, man, you got to start selling this stuff. So that really kicked me in the butt to start producing it in such a way that I could monetize it and do some good things. And I'll tell you about that in a minute.
Okay, we'll go to break here. We'll come back. We'll learn the story of Goodness Steak, which is awesome. Guys, stick around on the Community Difference.
The Difference Radio, live stream, and podcast. The voice of small businesses and the communities they serve.
Over the last 24 months, The Difference has evolved into a powerful internet media company that helps small businesses and local communities and nonprofit organizations create, produce, broadcast, and distribute a variety of shows, all designed to empower our communities, the businesses, the people, the places, and the events that make our cities, communities, and the folks that live there so very special.
With almost 1.5 million viewers and listeners in the last 2 years, The Difference and its unique strategy of positive impact branding has helped communities and small businesses be seen, be heard, and be remembered.
In a world that is consumed with negative press, media manipulation, and propaganda, The Difference, along with many others who believe in and support The Difference, understand that there is no better way to make the difference in our communities than to highlight the unsung heroes and high achievers that call our towns and communities home. And we wanted to create a platform that does just that. One that brings awareness to and reminds folks of the goodness that lives within so many of us and our neighbors.
And don't forget to hit that like, follow, and subscribe button and tune in each week so you can experience the difference.
Welcome back to the Community Difference. I'm your host, Nathan Smith. I'm here with Jason Ballou of Goodness Steak Seasoning. Now, before the break, well, you told me, you said you bought the book Grilling for Dummies, I think. But
Yeah.
You reminded me, so I have many of those For Dummies books, and I don't know what that says about me, but I have this.
It means you're a lifelong learner.
That's how I felt like. So I always like to learn random things, right? And I bought this Quantum Physics for Dummies. Not joking, because you never know when you want to talk about that in conversation. It might come up a lot. And yeah. I was on this science kick, and just it's a whole nother story. So I'm reading it, and I realized that I need Quantum Physics for really dummies, which they don't make. I was like, if this is as dumbed down as you can get, this is not for me. Yeah. And so that was the end of my quantum physics journey. But hey, I gave it a shot. So that's the
so you're saying that Hooked on Phonics didn't help you pronounce some of those 15-letter words?
No, it did not. The only thing I know about quantum physics is that things get really, really, really small, and then they do crazy things. That's pretty much my scientific explanation of quantum physics. So, anyways, we digress wildly. So Goodness Steaks. So you decide, okay, hey, I'm gonna start making this, marketing it, obviously from a business standpoint. But why Goodness? Like, tell me what your end game is. Obviously, when you're in business, you want to make a profit. You want to make a business. Those are givens. But tell me the story that's on the website about the name Goodness and where you want to go with that.
Well, you'd kind of said it a little earlier, just thinking of names, Goodness Steak is like goodness sake. And I was like, yeah, I kind of like that, kind of don't. And, I realized that it's really, the goodness of God that creates things. Okay.
Correct.
I'm a believer, believe in creation and, the imagination of God. Okay. And so each one of us have that part within us. We're all creative in that same way because we bear his image. And so I was thinking, God kind of gave me this recipe and helped me develop it, everything that way. So it's out of his goodness. And so the goal of Goodness Steak Seasoning is to spread that goodness. It really is. It's, sure, I want world domination when it comes to seasoning and everyone to try it and love it and be like, oh my gosh. You want
to win all the barbecue competitions, obviously.
Oh, yeah. And it is. I mean, it's good for smoking, not just grilling, in case you want to know. So, it does come down to, my goal with this, sure, I'd love it to replace my roofing career, which I really enjoy. But I would one day like for it to just take on a life of its own and do everything that it can do that way financially. But the goal with that financial freedom is for me personally to go out and do mission work, to support mission work, to, help different, whether it be ministers, whether it be missionaries, whether it be just, community service type of things, that are, sharing the goodness of God, sharing his love. And that's what I want. I want to be able to go and do all these things myself and, and just say, hey, it's God's goodness. That's really what produces this. And so that's the goal. It really, really is.
That's awesome. We had on 2 weeks ago, Steve Lester and Leslie Lord from Carson's Crusades. You also are on the board of Carson's Crusades. So I could definitely tell, like, you have the heart for ministry in a sense, not from the traditional necessarily idea of that, but just in terms of bringing business into your livelihood, your beliefs. And how have you seen Goodness Steak so far? And you've been doing this now for, I guess, almost 2 years in terms of the business side of it.
A little over a year.
A little over. Okay.
When I started,
how have you seen that really impact the community in a sense? Like, obviously it makes everybody's steak taste better, which is good.
Yes.
But what have you seen from relationships or doors that have been opened because of not just a good product? I mean, that's a good thing, but your mission and your desire beyond just the product or beyond just the business.
Yeah. There's been different opportunities to give to other charitable organizations, one of them being Carson's Crusaders. I've been able to, donate product, for silent auction items to help other organizations raise money. And, and that's, I may have gotten some sales from that. Not really sure, but I will tell you that, it's a very good feeling that I'm able to give something back, even in the infancy of the company, is to say, hey, I'm willing to give, back to the community in some way, shape, or fashion. And then, I'll be sponsoring some holes at golf tournaments that are, for charities like Veterans Center of North Texas, for Carson's Crusaders. Usually I'll do one for All Community Outreach. Used to be Allen Community Outreach here in Allen. And so, doing those things, sure, I'm spending money, sure, I'm selling product, but I'm giving to that organization for them to do the good work that's already been put in their heart.
Yeah, and we've talked about this a lot. We talked about this, I think, last week and the week before. But when one of the things that I think in my business and we talk about this in Master Networks is when you give to give, just for the sake of giving, because giving is good, you tend to stumble on to reaping some benefits. Now, again, it depends on your mindset. If you're just giving if you're giving to give, but you're really thinking about, I need to make sure I get something out of this. Well, there's a fine line between, not giving away the farm, but also just opening yourself up to doing good and impacting others. And so I love your story because I feel like you really understand that. And a lot of people that are in our network and that we talk to a lot really have a good concept of why that is so important. Yeah. And I think if you go back to, even talking with Blake earlier, and we talked with Angela Powell, the Plano SD School Board, last week, any organization that you're in, when you look to impact others first, and some organizations by their nature, like nonprofits, that's their goal. Of course, we've all heard of nonprofit horror stories where they're taking all the money and running. That's not most of them, thank goodness. Yeah. But even if that's not your intent as a small business or local business or whatever, when you put yourself in hey, now we're getting, look at that.
Yeah, it's me and my 4 kids.
That's a lot of kids.
Yeah, it's just 4. I mean, good Lord, it's not like 22 or something.
That's a good point. You're not going to be having a show on the OWN network anytime soon, or?
No.
Okay,
no,
that's
good. I can't see that happening.
Now your lovely picture totally distracted me from what I'm saying. But my point is, if you look, no matter what kind of organization you are, if you look to give back first, number one, you're going to just end up running into the right people, right? That's just kind of naturally what happens. When the difference started, the idea was, why do businesses succeed and fail? And it's not because of lack of knowledge or lack of a good product. Generally speaking, it's because not enough people know what they do. Yeah. Well, do you want to be known as the steak seasoning guy or the guy that impacts the lives of others that just happens to make good steak seasoning? Well, obviously, the bigger impact is the former, right? Or the latter, I should say. But how you get there is by it's really a network of service. Like we talk about networking in master networks all the time for obvious reasons. It's the whole point. But when you put yourself out there and you look to serve other people first, no matter what entity or business or what you're a part of, it's amazing how something just happens. I mean, it's quite amazing the impact that you see far beyond what you could ever do, even from a fiscal impact. Like when you look to serve others first, you tend to find more success than that Google ad that you ran or the mailer campaign that you sent out or a cool video that somebody made for you. All those things are important, but you interact with people, you get to know people better. And ultimately that's what's going to drive your business success or your success as a school district or your success as a sports team or as a church, right? My goodness. I mean, if anybody should be doing that, it's churches. And a lot of times they do. And some churches don't have a very good community impact. And so that's our encouragement. And that's why, I was so excited to hear about that. We are about 4 minutes from break. Talk to us about Allen a little bit, because you live in Allen. You're in a couple of networking groups in Plano, which is right next door. Are you part of the chamber? I can't remember in Allen.
Yes, I am part of the.
So you're like Allen and Plano everything guy. So we're just
definitely Allen. Not everybody in Plano knows who I am. I promise you that.
I mean, just give it time. Once they get a little bit of that steak seasoning, it's gonna be all over.
Yes.
So talk to us about Allen. What do you love about Allen? It's at one point, Allen was like the fastest growing city in the country, I think. Yeah. And now it's still up there. I mean, all of North Texas is.
Oh, yeah.
But what is it about Allen as a community from what it has to offer? Why are people coming there? And then I want you to answer probably a tougher question, because I think Allen's a little bit bigger than Rowlett, so it does have a few more restaurants. But I want you to tell me your favorite place to go in Allen.
Okay.
That's a restaurant.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see here. I moved to Allen in 2012. And, that was right there when, Kyler Murray was coming on as the quarterback for Allen. And, so, one of the things I really like about Allen is the one high school. I think Rowlett has the same thing, where the whole community still comes together, for that. And so, all my kids are in Allen schools. They, three of them have, actually all four of them have played in the marching band. Now I'm going to have two next year playing in it. And, that's just, some part of it. Cause I got kids in school, some all the time, going to some kind of sports thing, not really watching them because they don't, play in any of the teams, but, I like just being involved with, the school and everything that way. I've even volunteered at the elementary schools and junior high and high school where my kids are at. So that's one thing I really like about Allen. It's also I don't know, it just feels like it's well run, honestly, when it comes down to it. Now, I'm not, thoroughly involved in the civics of it all, but I know that things get taken care of. If there's an issue, it seems like, within a week, they're chopping down a tree or they're removing things, whatever else is necessary. So I really think they, care about their citizens.
Now, Blake would tell you need to be more involved in your local city and your local.
Well, Blake has time on his hands.
Hey, he's full-time college student too. So, so favorite place to eat?
Oh gosh, favorite place to eat, man, because I like to eat.
If you need to give me like two, you can give me two. I don't want to offend your other favorite place.
Okay. Okay. Best Italian is Mia Nonna off Stacy. It is a really small place. Only has about 12, 13 tables in there. And oh my gosh, so good Italian food. Can
you translate that to English for us?
Your mama? Is that what it is?
Is that really what it is?
I don't know. Nonna. I mean, I think Nonna is another name for grandmother, maybe. I think.
Maybe you're right.
Maybe that's it. And then
I just mistook you for fluent in Italian. I don't know why.
Listen, when it comes to food, I'll translate most anything to get it in my mouth. It's probably the best little Mexican place because I love Mexican.
What's
food.
it called?
Mexican place.
No, what's the name of it?
Is El Grande Burrito.
Wow, they really went out on a limb with inventiveness there, didn't they?
Yeah, well, when English is a second language, they're like, let's call it the big burrito. That's what's
hey, when it's good, it doesn't matter what you call it.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna have to go. We're gonna have to have a contest between El Grande Burrito and what's the place? I just totally lost it. I have to. Hey, Linda, can you bring Blake back in here? What's the name of the place in Rowlett?
Barocos, Latin cuisine.
Barocos. Okay, so you've got.
Well, I will tell you something that's probably been very different.
Okay.
Okay. When I walk into El Grande Burrito, 100% of the time, people turn their heads, look at me, and like, "What's the white guy doing here?" So it's probably a little different than the Latin cuisine because that sounds like a little higher end. Like this is Mexican food, not Tex-Mex, not Latin cuisine. It is Mexican. It is really good.
Well, then good because there's definitely a difference. So
yes. Yeah.
Well, we're going to go to break here. And then when we come back, I got a couple of questions for both of you. And then we'll wrap up the show, guys. We're going to about 15 minutes left. And we'll see you on the other side of the break.
Today's show is made possible by the following small business partner, Home Title Lock. Home title protection with up to $1 million guarantee in case of fraud. Ace of Bull Online Texas, real estate school and courses. Offering Trek-approved pre-licensing, CE, SAE, and broker licensing courses. Smart Credit Monitoring helps you control your credit score, money, and identity, all in one place. Phone.com. Phone.com is the modern, work from anywhere solution for today's agile, mobile, and always on entrepreneurs and growing businesses. CoreNet, business asset and liability protections. Our business filing experts will help you get your business moving. Start a business, incorporate or form an LLC today with CoreNet. For more info about our sponsors and their services, or if you'd like info on how you and your business can sponsor this show or others like it, just check the show description or in the comments for the relevant links. And now back to the show.
All righty. We are here for the last 15 minutes, really like 13 minutes of the Community Difference today. Thank you so much to our wonderful guests, Blake Margolis and Jason Ballou. We've learned a lot today. We've learned that I suck at quantum physics. We've learned about two phenomenal restaurants. Oh, I guess that's probably all of us. I think we could safely say that. And Linda, can you throw that hashtag or that comment with the two restaurants? We're going to drive a little business to those places. If you didn't know where you were going on a date this week, I would recommend. Is that it? Yes. And then the Italian place. There we go. I would recommend go those two places. You might find Blake or Jason at either one of those. So
you'll definitely find me at Barocos.
Okay. Yeah. That's awesome. So as we wrap up, Blake, you talked about why it's important to be involved as in the community with what's going on around you, because literally everything that affects you really directly is primarily at the city level, and then less at the state and even less at the national level. So why do you? It's always been kind of this very low turnout from a voting standpoint. You've got. I know the mayor of Princeton, and great person. She was on our show a couple of months ago. Brianna Chacon is her name. She's awesome. And I think she won with like 700 votes, which is awesome to win. But the population of Princeton is way larger than that, right? And I know the same thing happens in Rowlett. And I think I've been guilty of it. I've really tried to make it a point now to, anytime there's something to vote on, be aware of it, or who someone's running for city council. But why do you think it's so kind of just not on people's radar? And because we've established why it's important, but why is it not on people's radar? And what do you think you guys could do better as city councilmen and women? And, we can do it the difference, or just as citizens, to try and kind of rally the obvious necessity of being involved from that standpoint.
So I think one of the main reasons why there's not as much of a voter turnout is because it's not on your television every night. You know, as where state and local is very contentious, very political. It can be very dirty, and that kind of gets more attention, unfortunately. And I think the way to combat that, to try and get more people to vote in local elections, is to educate on why it's so important to vote in local elections and how the city impacts your daily lives. Like I was saying earlier, I mean, it really does. When you wake up, get in the shower, that's the city. And so, and educating people about that and the importance of it will have to come from council members and community members.
Yeah, so it's interesting too, because the more you speak, I'm constantly thinking, like, it really is everything that's involved there. And I think that as I'm talking to people, as we talk to people, and I asked this, you have a friend that's a Plano city councilman, ask him the same question, and it's the same problem. I mean, it's probably across America in small towns. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, when you see national elections, they're always painted so contentiously, and there may be some need for that. I mean, I'm not saying, there's certainly a difference between good ideas and bad ideas, and this is not the forum to argue that. But you almost feel like you're not doing your civic duty if you don't oust this person whom you disagree with, which, okay, fine, whatever. But again, you spend all this time watching the news about how everything is going your way or your party's way, or not going your party's way, whatever that is. But you overlook everything else that pretty much touches your existence, basically, literally with a shower, with water, right, every single day. And so, yeah, I think it's just a matter of bringing that to people's attention. And also, like, in Plano, they don't run, and I believe Shelby Williams is his name. I think he said, you can't run on a party platform on a local level as a city councilman. Is that right? Or
Not
is that
in Rowlett?
I thought it was a law, but maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be listed on your ballot, but you can, as an individual, run as a different party, but it's not going to go on the ballot that way, where it says R or D.
Mm-hmm. Now, is that the same for mayor? Because I feel like I've seen mayor.
Same thing. Yeah, it's the R or D is not going to go on there.
Well, and I think that's, and I understand the purpose of parties, obviously, but I think that's, at the city level, it's much less important than you just serving your citizens.
Yeah.
Right. Because it doesn't. Go ahead.
As a citizen, because I'm not involved in the city government like Blake is, and Nathan, you had made the comment of like, yeah, let's oust that guy. I don't like his ideas, whatever else. Well, my opinion is, if you don't like an idea, you don't like how things are going, you better come up with your own idea too.
Correct.
Saying you're negative Nanny and like, oh, I don't like it. Okay, then what's your idea? What can you do to make it better? Are you going to truly get involved in the community to make things, the way either you want them to be, or a way that truly is benefiting the community as a whole? It's not people getting their own way. It's about building a community of people that actually care about each other.
Well, and here's what's interesting too, is that every person that is representing someone in Washington started at a local level at some point in politics.
Yep.
And their ideas that you don't like or that you do like were fashioned by either neglect, because there wasn't enough people, standing up in their own city, getting their voice heard. And then by the time people get to the state level, especially the national level, you have a lot less ability, because they can basically, not to be rude, but they can give you the middle finger. They can come up with whatever legislation they want to. I'm sure we've all put somebody in office that didn't do what we thought they were going to do, right? But at the local level, you can literally walk into the city council and check out you can watch it online. You don't have to go anywhere. Yeah. You can do that with the school board, especially I know when my son becomes school age, if we don't homeschool, and we haven't figured that out for sure yet, you bet your butt that I'm going to be knowing what's going on in the school district, because it's very important to me, right? And so you have the best ability to be heard, to be seen, and even to run for a council position or some sort of city leadership, especially when the turnout isn't as good. Hopefully it gets better, right? But what were you going to say, Jason?
I would say this, back in 2017, had the opportunity to serve on the grand jury for Collin County.
Oh, nice.
Okay? People avoid jury duty. Oh, jury duty. Oh, it's so bad. I'm like, man, you call my name, I'm in.
That's how I feel. I've never been called for jury duty.
Yeah.
I'll get called tomorrow.
So, what I found out is, man, because the grand jury, the only thing they hear are felony cases. That's the only thing, and they decide if there's enough evidence, to go to trial. That's all they do. And man, you get to see the underside of your county. You get to really see what goes on when you're at home. You're safe, you're happy, and you got law enforcement, taking care of you, or taking care of, people that have been hurt or abused, anything like that. So, man, that's my encouragement to people. Man, you get a chance to serve on a jury, do it. It really shows you actually care about your community, because you might have a case that changes the law that saves someone else's life.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I appreciate you so much. We actually got into stuff I hadn't actually planned, so that's awesome. That's a sign of a good conversation. So, Jason, thank you so much. Jason Blue with Goodness Steaks Seasoning, and I think that goodness will continue to grow in ways that you probably don't even realize yet. And then Blake Margolis, the city councilman from Rowlett, place number 1. If you're going to be in a place, it should be number 1. That's what I would say.
Baby. Number 1. Blake's number 1.
I don't know how you got it, but and all joking aside, thank you guys so much. Man, and I'll just tell you, Blake, you are quite an encouragement, because it's a good sign when people in your generation and somebody named Michelle Nouveau is excited about you.
She's a good friend.
Okay, good. That's
awesome.
awesome.
A fan club.
It's hey, you know you're doing right when you're a city councilman. You have a fan club. That's a good sign. Yeah. But no, I admire you for coming to the conclusions that you have at such an early age, and I know you're going to do great things. So thank you
very much. Appreciate it.
Very well. I know my parents appreciate it. They still live there. So thank you very much. And Jason, special thanks to you. I will see you on Thursday, sir. Yes. And otherwise, thanks to all our guests, to our sponsors. We will be back in Plano next week for the Community Difference Plano edition. Until then, guys, thank you very much. God bless, and have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the Community Difference. If you enjoyed the show, take something you learned and apply it in your community or your business in order to make the difference for someone else. Remember, the smallest change begins with a single action, but a single action can make all the difference. A special thank you to today's amazing guests. Also, if you'd like to be on the show to share your unique story and how it made the difference in your community, please contact Lendon Wilson at lendonw@thedifferenceradio.com. Until next time, this has been The Community Difference, hosted by Nathan Smith.